Hello, everyone, and welcome to my birthday pick for this year. We're doing the Super Mario Brothers movie. I've never seen this movie, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to do that.
Mamma
I
mia.
saw it in I saw it in cinemas in 4DX, and I'll tell you, an upcoming sequence in this movie was quite the experience with your seat moving around.
I also saw this movie in theaters.
I watched with the Portuguese dub because I actually don't care much for Chris Pratt as the main character, honestly.
If you remember, me, Deji, Jova, and Pedro made a speculation video about what could have been, what happened. Thankfully, most of our predictions, which were basically fearing the worst, did not turn out to be true. But again, as the quality of a movie, that's what we're here to find out. So where should we
All right,
start,
then.
Shiroi?
Before the Universal logo?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
they did that. Okay, they
Yes.
did do. Okay, cool. All right, start before the Universal logo in 3, 2, 1, click.
And I'm happy to report it's the standard Universal logo instead of being the stupid minion singing one that they get every time Illumination is involved. Thank you.
Yeah. Might as well mention the elephant in the room here. In case you weren't around to hear about the big controversy, of all the studios Nintendo went to go with, it is the one that spawned these yellow creatures.
That's because it's that you put
Illumination.
apparently the main CEO of Illumination is among the board of directors of Nintendo or something. So that's why he got in a relationship with. Oh, that's cute. With Shigeru Miyamoto.
And just like the other Mario movie, it starts with the Mario theme.
Okay.
Thankfully, we can report immediately that there will be actual game remixes in this movie. Although it's worth noting, the composer, I forgot,
Brian Tyler.
Brian Tyler, had reportedly had to fight tooth and nail to actually get them because, surprise, Illumination Universal wanted more licensed songs to be put in places of them instead.
Let me put it like this. Logistically speaking, I get why Nintendo went with Illumination. Illumination, well, until recently, had this black magic to basically be able to supermarket their films extremely well to the point where Despicable Me 4 is one of their lowest grossing movies in a while, and that still made like 900 million something. The Illumination are practically the kings at managing to profit off of it relatively cheap budgets. Now, to their credit, their animation quality, for the most part, is pretty good, honestly. In fact, that was part of why they were celebrated when they started off with Despicable Me. They were a new voice to the industry. Of course, if you're a film aficionado, you probably also know that Illumination have garnered something of a reputation. They make some of the most corporate-safe movies to this day and age, essentially, with pretty much run-of-the-mill plots and, of course, licensed music, which, yeah, even this movie is not immune to, essentially.
I will say this, however, starting with this for a positive, I genuinely like what they did for the animation and the art style. It really just feels, as if Nintendo made an entire CGI movie cutscene.
Like, I will say this. While I do think the Koopas and Bowser look great, I don't care for how Mario and Luigi's faces look, honestly.
Maybe it's because I was feeling too much from the poster where they made him look even more chunky, but I guess I get what you mean.
I was going to say, like, hop on Illumination as much as you want. Like, they deserve it to quite an extent. But their style suits this franchise with the 3D aspect. Like, their particular style of 3D, it does suit them. So
there you go. Speaking of inappropriate license songs, why is this here?
Okay,
problem.
Because Illumination got Illumination. Like, I'll give Illumination this. They did an overall good job with this movie, but that will not have me ignore the fact that there's still a lot of corporate Illumination decisions that are quite obvious here, especially when we get to that one segment, which actually originally had a piece of game music in it, but got vetoed.
And
but for now,
as usual, Kamek is disgustingly overpowered.
How come Kamek's not the main villain? Okay.
Kamek...
I do like Jack Black as Bowser. He actually Actually put on a voice I didn't think he'd do.
There's a lot
for,
that can be said about how Jack Black is torpedoing his own
I
reputation in
guess.
recent years. It could have been worse, but I think it could have been better. It feels like it
He's
should have been
good.
still a bit more deep.
He's good, don't get me wrong, but I would have preferred for them to use the actual official voice of Bowser in the games.
Wait,
all he does is
Bowser
go,
really?
"Rawr!"
Yeah, like to their credit, sadly, because Nintendo is so scared of letting people speak after Sunshine, Bowser don't really get to speak much.
No, but he has but there's a thing, Joe, but the guy who does those roles is a voice actor, and he's the god of love in The 100 Girlfriends, so he can perfectly act. This could have been a good opportunity for him to finally step up and do a voice role of Bowser, but gotta get a celebrity, I guess.
Well, while we're talking about that, I will say this. I did not support them putting in Chris Pratt as Mario back then, and I still do not now. Yes, Chris Pratt's performance is fine here, but nah, I'ma say it. Charles Martinet could have done that role.
Or at the
fine,
very least,
honestly.
like someone like Danny DeVito, if you want, because Chris Pratt,
Yes.
despite all the marketing, where Chris Pratt. Oh, by the way, this character actually her voice actress is the one from Princess Toadstool from the Dick cartoon. Cute.
Okay, obviously, a lot of people were
Gunshot.
talking about this movie when it came out. I can't believe I didn't hear about that fucking feature song.
It wasn't
Yes.
one of the. It wasn't actually one of the trailers here. I'm surprised you missed that.
Okay, I do get why they had that scene, not only for a bit of fan service, but also to show doing that kind of accent throughout the whole movie wouldn't work. And it's especially wouldn't work with Toad, I'll tell you that much.
Anyway, first of all, yes, the pizza passes the test to me, in case you're wondering. Second, apparently the events of Wrecking Crew happened, well, in the past. It's just a matter which I can understand. Again, Wrecking Crew is a very simple game, so you might as well have that as part of the backstory. So there is that.
Yes, I will say this. If you dig the Mario lore, yes, the Mario lore, this movie will tickle your funny bone in that regard.
Not
since,
entirely,
yes,
because the first Donkey Kong, as this movie establishes, it's just a fictional thing in here instead of actually something that happened with Jumpman.
I'm gonna draw on it later, but I will say this. I love that this movie gets the look of Mario down. I feel like it hinges on that a little bit too much, though.
Same.
Not in the sense that they should have never done it, but it feels like what they did was get a checklist of, okay, here's Mario stuff. Let's let people know that they're looking at a Mario thing. Let's not make it look like the original movie. And bam, there we go. What about the plot? We'll think of that later.
No, I'm with Job on that one, because while I do appreciate that, unlike the Sonic movies, this movie is animated and indeed gets the look, well, most of the look right, in my opinion. The fact that the plot is practically non-existent, this is just a string of fan service Easter eggs. I mean,
that's one thing I think the Sonic movies have over this.
the Sonic movies may not be accurate to the games, but they're actually good movies.
Let me put it like this. The Sonic movies do what I like first and foremost. They make an alternate take on the games that feels like, it fits with the idea of the games, but they still make sure to have their own stories that make them stand out here. Like, let me put into perspective how weird things get. Believe it or not, this movie actually takes a lot of story cues from the original Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Essentially, like the original Mario Brothers movie, as you can probably guess, this movie will turn out to be an isekai about two plumbers, essentially.
Well, that was also a thing in the D cartoon, and I know that a lot of people in America really loved that for reasons that escape me.
I'll give them credit. Some of what they did might have been intentional references to the 1993 film, especially since nowadays that movie has a cult fandom, and shoot, Disney or whoever currently own it are milking that, seeing as how every now and then again they give an enhanced anniversary collection with it.
Anyway, same dog species as Secret Life of Pets. So cute.
I was about to say.
Anyway, what I was saying, the thing about Chris Pratt, to me, Jesus, is that the marketing made it a whole point about, oh no, guys, he's totally trying to get into the role. He even had that stupid line. He says, "I spent all my youth stomping on Coopers," and yet the final performance, it's just him being Star-Lord again with a slightly Italian accent.
You know, I gotta wonder if that him pausing on the Koopa's line thing, if that was intentional, or that was just them accidentally revealing how he really don't care that much about Mario with how stilted it was.
Especially because, in contrast, Charlie Day sounds like he's actually giving a shit as Luigi.
Oh yeah, no, Charlie Day was phenomenal casting as Luigi. But yes... Here is, of course,
expect a lot of slow-mo shots where Mario says "Mamma Mia" for some reason.
But yeah, of course, they have a job that was going so well, but then the dog has to ruin it.
What pissed off that dog?
The fact that Luigi broke his bone biscuit thing, yeah.
Okay, there's leaky pipes, and then there's just an absolute cursed burial ground you're on.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that.
Yeah, right here.
Uh-oh.
Basically, to look at the CGI renders of Mario Wonder, that's how these characters should look in CGI, but those faces don't look right.
Like I said, Mario looks a bit too chunky for what he's supposed to be.
Chunky Konga in the movie would fit.
Of course the plumber is stuck up the dog's ass.
For me, it's... the blue part of their outfits, it looks too textured, and they go for a realistic look.
That might be on Nintendo
instead of the cartoony look that they have in the games.
That might be on Nintendo's part because that's something that has been happening since Smash 4. Also, yeah, expanding on the lore, the Mario Brothers have an entire family, where we saw already Charles Martinez's character, their father.
Just doubling down on the fact that the Mario Brothers come from Brooklyn, not New Donk City.
I will say this: they do get the aesthetic of what the environment was for Italian immigrants in America.
But to be fair, Joe, New Donk City is the New York equivalent of the Mario world. That's kind of the point.
Oh, definitely.
Also, get it? Mario doesn't like mushrooms. Isn't that funny?
Okay. If this is one of those cases, I'm fine with that, since how Mario liked or didn't like mushrooms has never been a thing to touch base on. One could assume it's just a necessity at worst. That said, that means he shares his dislike of mushrooms along with Sonic, two kindred spirits.
Like, it's the Surfing Dracula effect of Jova, but it's if they made a Popeye movie where he doesn't like spinaches until the very end.
Yeah, and Mario's dad is a dick, by the way. Oh, look, Kitty Chris.
Okay, so here's the deal again. One of my issues with the movie is that it's a very by-the-numbers plot. The hero is a fish out of water who, even much of his family, don't believe in him, but he needs something, just one little thing to prove himself. And mind you, there are a lot of movies with that plot that are amazing, yes, but I really do mean it, and this might be just a thing with Illumination. There is, like, almost no surprises to be had with this plot here.
No.
Well, okay, there is one stuff that I wish the movie... Pauline. There is some stuff that I wish they would have done instead of what they did, because that's not something that I was expecting, but that's what they're about to get in, like, 10 minutes from now.
See, the thing to add to what Jova was saying, here's what I think happened. You know how Miyamoto assured us that, oh, don't worry, I'm working on the movie to make sure they do it right. Here's what it feels like to me, Joe. It feels like Miyamoto was constantly on top of Illumination going, don't screw up. So basically, the problem is, we went too far in the other direction, now to the point where the movie never takes risks, never does anything interesting. So it's just the main goal seems to be to not screw up.
That is
Okay, well-
definitely my take. Like, I will say this. While, yes, objectively speaking, this is better than the original live-action movie, I dare say there are things that I like about the live-action movie better than this movie, if only because the live-action movie, for all of its issues, was working with Mario back when Mario was way less defined, so they took risks. Again, obviously, a lot of those risks were not good and did not pan out, but one thing that I'd argue was good was the characterization of the Mario Brothers. Heck, Luigi actually got to be more fleshed out there. It was that movie that actually let Luigi get the girl. Well, okay, Mario did have Pauline in that movie, but that was the movie that established
I've always called
Luigi
someone-
and Daisy as a couple.
Now that I think, in fact, you want a celebrity to play Mario? Get Stanley Tucci. He's Italian American.
Okay, so the thing is, they did have Charles Martinet in. He's basically Jumpman. Yes, the guy who plays Jumpman is also called Jumpman. Yeah, no, I have to agree with Tio. If not him, Danny DeVito, the guy who was almost Mario in the
you
original
already have Charlie
live-action.
Day as Luigi. You might as well go with the Sonic
Think about
America
it.
reunion.
Think about it. Danny DeVito as Mario and Stanley Tucci as Luigi. There you go. That works, in my opinion.
Okay. I'll be fair. I like Charlie Day as Luigi, so I wouldn't replace him. That being said, though, Stanley Tucci as Wario in the sequel.
Sure, that can work too.
So yeah,
Oh.
for some reason, there's a warp pipe stuck on the underground of London. Is there something you need to tell us,
York.
Jova?
New York.
New York,
but
my
yeah.
bad. Sorry.
This is another thing I can't believe I'm saying this. The live action movie did this better, wherein the warp pipe, quote unquote, in that movie was much more hidden and secretive. Here,
This is like
there's just a pipe that leads to the other world that no one stumbled into before.
It's the Dick cartoon, because that's what they did in the opening. They said that the Mario Brothers stumbled into one of these, and all of a sudden get isekai in the rainbow pastel stuff.
I mean, this is better what I thought was going to happen. I thought they were going to go down the toilet in that earlier scene. All right.
No, Miyamoto wouldn't allow that.
The thing that I was saying before is that I did like how they portrayed the Italian culture of someone who, a family of people who actually immigrated. They did some research on the matter. And instead, here's one of the problems that we're about to get instead. So, you remember what the title of the movie is, right? Well, tough shit.
Mario
Luigi and
Brothers.
Mario get separated now, and they're gonna be reunited, say, 15 minutes before the movie's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
There's a Mario Brothers movie, and the Mario Brothers don't interact all that much throughout the movie.
It's worth noting that the obvious reason they did this is because they did not want to have Peach being the main role of being captured by Bowser for a multitude of reasons. That actually sparked stupid social media discussion that we're not here to talk about. I think Deji said to me, honestly, a better alternative would have been if Mario and Luigi's Mario and Luigi's father was kidnapped and they had to team up to actually rescue him. It will still feel a personal stake, and you will have an occasion to have the brothers both united in this. Also, I forgot, remind me again, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad is fine. Again, I thought it was going to be much worse. It's still a bit grating, but it's tolerable enough.
Yeah, I mean,
to be fair, Toad's voice is grating in the games too. So
I was going to say I was going to say. I mean, I know there was some discussion about Mario's voice, but can you imagine if Toad talked like this the whole movie?
Like in the D cartoon, you mean? That would have been good.
Pretty much.
that is true too. But like I said, even the official Nintendo voice of the character nowadays, they still do the grading thing anyway. So even Nintendo does it.
Also,
I mean, it's less grating. Like Treasure Tracker was fine.
Also, worth noting is that scene where Mario actually checks on his, on his salopet thing, that was in the trailers, and he was memed in reverse by making it look like Mario had a heart attack. That was
Also,
hilarious.
Yeah.
also Darklands. That's a reference to Super Mario Bros. too. And yeah, that's the thing about this movie. It's like let me explain this. I've grew up. One of my first video games was the first Super Mario Brothers. Like I love the Mario mainline series. It's probably my favorite franchise because it's the most consistently high quality franchise of all time. The thing is, okay, and yeah, it's cool. As someone who grew up on it, obviously I do like these Easter eggs. They're fun. The thing is, that's it. It's a disposable long 90-minute commercial for Mario games.
It's the red letter media meme. I know what that is.
Yeah, that's basically this movie. I know what that is.
Yes, Jova.
So if I may, Mario, as many of you may know, is a very, very, very high quality and a very reputable series of sorts, which has a high reputation and a high sense of quality. That being said, making a movie of it is not always going to be easy, or should I say, making a quality movie of it is not going to be easy, because here's the thing, while yes, there is lore to the Mario series, the Mario series' MO is typically, do whatever the hell we want, these people are high, so anything can happen in these games, essentially. What I'm getting at is, in a Mario game, you can practically have just about anything happen, and people are going to be fine with that, because Mario, first and foremost, is about the gameplay, unless you're playing like the RPGs, where story actually is a factor. So, making a movie of Mario tropes is not always going to be as easy. That being
What is
said,
that supposed to mean?
I don't know, Shiroi. Catchphrase,
Alright.
I don't know.
Well, they certainly got down how creepy dry bones are.
Yeah, you would think that Luigi will have to, for a sequence like this, will have to be contrast against booze, but no, I guess.
Yeah, that's such a missed opportunity. Why didn't they do it with booze?
Yeah.
That's the thing. You say about fan service, I'd say there is technically not enough, because there are clearly sequences that clearly should have had a clear train of thought, but they didn't.
Yeah, where's my Luigi's Mansion reference?
Okay, let me be clear. I said fan service. I didn't say it was all well-aimed fan service, which is the issue I'm about to get at here. This movie feels like it runs on the same MO as the games. Throw whatever we can in because it's Mario. The problem is that's not going to work for a movie as well, because movies tend to require more plot structure and reasoning as to how we got here or how we accomplished certain actions here or there. The issue is the MO seemed to be throw in Mario stuff here, and people will like that because Shy Guys are here instead of booze.
Hold on, let me see if I understand correctly. You put Luigi in a mansion, and yet what he finds are not booze but Shy Guys.
Yeah, I thought the mansion was supposed to be the reference, also going through the forest with a torch and whatever. I know it's not one-to-one, but like...
It was literally right there, guys. Literally right there.
Yeah, again, this is my biggest issue with the movie. It uses fan service, but more in a way to just get people to clap instead of, well, sustaining the plot as well here and there.
Toad, please shut up.
His brother's going to die.
I don't know, I like Toad so far.
No, I like Toad in this movie too. Keegan-Michael Key helps.
For the sake of adding to what Jove and me are saying, allow me to use a movie that we've already commented on as an example. Let's talk a little bit about Captain America: The First Avenger. Remember how Captain America has his original 1940s shield from the original comic when they're doing the montage and the musical number. See, the thing is, it's a reference to those comics, yes, but the reason it's there is because it's the original show that they made in a hurry. It's later when Howard Stark makes the proper shield that Captain America is more well known to have, right? So it's a reference that worked with the story. In here, that's not really that. It's just, let's see. Look at that. They go through the pipes in the event, just like in the games. Get it?
Also, I kind of find it a bit weird that they introduced the clear pipes, since those are technically supposed to be a thing from the land of the Sprixies as per 3D World. But sure, we can say that that is part of the Mushroom Kingdom. Oh yeah, no. This movie got in everything it could for the Mario games, even to the point of adding in stuff from Bowser's Fury, as you'll see later.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't the worst, mind you. But again, I feel like it feels like they're shooting off Easter eggs like a machine gun without really all the tact here and there.
That being said, I will, for the sake of saying something more positive, the one thing about this movie that I would consider is definitely great is the score by Brian Tyler.
Again, as I mentioned, you had to fight tooth and nail to actually make it. So
not just his remixes of classic Martin, but his original material is also really great.
Get it? The princess is not in this
so
castle.
Like, apologies for those who made a. Yeah, this is not Monster Hunter. Apologies for those who made a drinking game about spotting the reference. You're probably dead by now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why the cooking?
No idea.
Yeah, to be fair, this checks out that Peach's castle does not have the best security.
Well, it's a bit more white than I remember.
I mean, considering how often she gets kidnapped, it's always had terrible security.
Well, okay, according to what this movie does, I would raise a question on that, but we're about to get to that.
We have the Game of Thrones table.
Hey, look at that! Sarasaland! It'd be nice to meet Daisy in this movie.
Well, I mean, the last part. I mean, she's better. Well, I'm pretty sure she'd be more accurate than the last time we had Daisy.
So yeah, the plot is relatively similar to the one of the original game. Bowser is actually using his sphere of influence to invade the other kingdoms, and in this case, getting the power star like in 64. And there she is, Anna Taylor-Joy as Peach.
I actually like her in the role, honestly.
There's a lot to be discussed, but the only thing that I will say, the movie is clearly very, very afraid to actually step away from her to be in a position that is clearly dominant. Again, you'll be able to judge as the movie goes on, but it is still really a fact of what's happening.
Peach feels kind of dull. Like, okay, let me put it like this. Peach is, of course, the okay, I won't go there immediately, but Peach essentially is the one in charge here who pretty much has everything down pat, and that's kind of it. Like, she doesn't have any of her fancy tidings. She doesn't really have her nice playful side from the games here. She's all serious, all work, no play, more or less, and she does not feel like Princess Peach much. And I know what some will say, oh, she's more like Princess Peach from the old Super Nintendo comics. Yeah, not even that. Like, that Peach was bombastic, brash, loud and angry, could tear it up even, but nah, not even that with this. She's just competent, and yeah, might as well rip the Band-Aid off.
Here, can I talk about this bit here? He's also mean to Mario for no reason.
Again, it's because, the movie wants to desperately, not overstep onto these, portrayal of Peach. And again, part of me gets it, you want to try something different. And again, because unlike the rest of the internet, I don't work in binaries, I don't think the alternative would have been that she has to be kidnapped for the entire movie. But here's a spoiler, Nintendo itself has a couple of games, I don't mean even their solo games, but a couple of games where she's a playable character, she's never in danger of being captured and everything, but she's not like this. That's
the thing. Peach in this is boring for me. It's just cool. She's competent and she can do gymnastics and awesome stuff. And to that I ask, hey, that sounds like Daisy. I could be doing Daisy
actually,
instead.
that's a good point. Her personality fits more Daisy, actually. I didn't even actually notice until now. Also,
look,
cute.
It's like a level from the game. It's like a level of Super Mario 3D World.
I mean, actually, it's in the original more like. Again, to be fair, I will get this as a way of representing the actual game over the entire world actually having the weird proportions. It's like a in-universe way of having the cake and eat it too. So I will actually, take this.
Let me put it like this: I see an action sequence like this, and I think, This feels more like something Daisy would do. Like, Peach is more so about, using her skirt to float and whatnot and, acting all dainty and sweet, but still kicking ass, or
See those platforms that fell just now, those are from 3D World.
Oh, okay.
mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I get what you're saying. Because I know what her games are like, the Super Princess Peach stuff and all that. It's like, yeah, I see your point. But a little bit after this, they would release Princess Peach Showtime.
Oh, I'm not even talking about that, Shiroi. I'm talking about the games where she's playable among the others, like the Super Mario 2 USA version or 3D World. You know, she's part of a cast. She's not put behind. Like the other. She's equal to the other. If anything, she's better because the Yoshis are the easy mode for those. She has her own unique abilities that make her pivotal for the game, but she doesn't have to actually show it off for that. But instead, this movie, wants to basically tell you constantly, guys, please trust us. She's so cool.
Yeah, that's my main issue. It feels like they're not as confident when, I'm sorry, games as early as Smash Brothers Melee were showing that she could look pretty, she could be dainty, she could still kick ass, hell, she could use her ass too to kick you.
I will argue we've already been doing a capable Peach in Super Mario Brothers 2 in 1988.
That's what I already said.
Well, technically that was just a reskin of another game.
You know what we mean, Dweebs. Ow. And now we have another licensed song for this.
Also, can I just say, there was really an era where Holding Out for a Hero was becoming the popular song to use in movies. There was this, there was Bullet Train, and there was even the Tetris movie. Now, to be fair, Bullet Train and the Tetris movie used it to awesome degrees.
I actually don't think I even seen the Tetris movie at the end of the day.
I'm sorry, you did not forget. You forgot to mention the pioneer that was the Shrek movie for this,
Shrek
which has
2.
the best version.
Fun fact,
Sure.
I know it's the second movie, but how dare you?
Sure. I'm talking about the era, though, like between 2022 and 2024. I would never forget the glorious usage of that song in Shrek 2.
Here's the thing, Deji the other day actually had, retweeted a question that was basically, if you actually want to analyze, get it. If you want to analyze something that happened in the past that, if you think about it, has led to disastrous, consequences, what do you think it would be? And someone suggested Shrek 2 using Holding Out for a Hero, because now almost everybody uses it.
So, despite him not making the chorus, Peach is going to bring him along because he cares.
Determination and all that.
Okay, I have stuff to draw on this, but I'll let you go first, Pedro.
Allow me to elaborate what I was saying before. I like Anya's Peach voice. I don't like the I'm mixed on the characterization for all the reasons Joe Vinti already pointed out, but I do like her voice, and I feel as for Peach because, like I said, I actually really liked the first major proper voice acting role Peach had in the games was in Mario 64, where she was voiced by Leslie Swan, who was a localization person at Nintendo of America at the time. And
also,
I really
Bowser's Fury trash.
So honestly, I never cared for the incredibly weirdly pitched voice they went with her after that game. Honestly, so I actually prefer when Peach has a normal woman voice and whatever the hell they went with for most games after 64. Honestly.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way, Joe. You're a kid in 1996, and you're playing Super Mario 64, and it blows you away as the first major 3D game. And Peach sounds great in that game. And then you hear her in Sunshine, and she sounds completely different. It's so jarring for a kid in that.
I mean,
God, I hate his face movement here. God, stop!
Yeah,
it's creepy.
that's actually something that was pointed out in a couple of reviews. Bowser suffers from
And
over.
that's how dry bones are made.
Well, I mean, it's consistent with how they get dropped in lava, usually. That's also what happened to Try Bowser. That's something that was pointed out in other reviews, Shiroi. Bowser alone seems to actually suffer from a lot of over-animation problems. As in, a lot of times his movements are faster than they should be, technically. And that includes also his facial movements.
It definitely feels like they animated him to match the mannerisms of Jack Black, which... make of that what you will. Like,
I
will say
will
this.
eventually. There is a moment
I feel-
specifically for that.
I feel like Jack Black is definitely the best thing in this movie. Yeah, shock of all shocks. But I will say, even he's not completely immune to kind of stepping outside of the wheelhouse for Bowser at times. Not to as bad a degree as, say,
Hey,
Bad
look,
as
baby
Mario.
Mario,
Hey!
baby Luigi.
Oh my God.
I
No,
know
but
what
that's the
that
thing.
is.
No, but that's the thing. They actually get the look of their baby versions better than the adult versions. That's the weird part.
I think Luigi
okay.
looks fine. Mario's a little weird.
All right, so on the subject of voices, actually. Oh yeah. This
They just did it. They just played the main theme there with the horns. Huh?
You already
Cute.
did that earlier. It's interesting because I saw the French version of the trailer, and it's interesting that Mario sounds more like himself in that one.
I guess I haven't talked much about the dub from my country. It's a famous movie that is going through production here. Lots of celebrity guests and comedians put in place of voice actors. Not a fan.
Yeah, and
What?
it's not important. And another, well, at least more interesting for me, at least, in the Danish version of the movie, of all the people they could get to voice Bowser, it was Agent 47 himself, David Bateson.
Okay.
Yes, a guy born in South Africa and raised mostly in England, does the Bowser in Denmark.
Cool. Anyway, yeah, it's time I also press another elephant in the room here. Because this movie seems like it's cribbing hard from the beginner's handbook guide on how to write a story, one of the things that they fall victim to is the old trend of making Mario kind of feel like a second wheel in his own plot here and there.
That's a Wumpa fruit.
Oh, hey, Yoshis!
Random Yoshi.
Oh, they're
Ready.
already. I forgot about that bit.
Also, I remember these clips from Treasure Tracker, but yeah, my biggest issue with the movie is Mario feels a bit like the sidekick in his own movie, in the sense where, I know where this is going, but
This
again,
is not
the thing is, we've seen that Mario is already capable and acrobatic. That's what, like, the first act in Brooklyn
here it
was
is.
for.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna be very blunt about this. It's pretty clear to me they just left Jack Black in the recording booth. They told him, improvise whatever you want. Trust us, it's gonna actually make a lot of views on YouTube. And here it is. Now,
Like,
as someone who
Nah, I don't care. This is a banger.
as someone who actually worships religiously Tenacious D and The Peak of Destiny as a musical movie, I so don't like this. Sure, I get the humor factor, but my god, it feels so artificial.
I love this movie, but I won't deny that, yeah, they totally just let Jack Black loose in the writing booth for this.
And like I said, Jack Black in recent years has done quite a lot of effort to torpedo his reputation, and this was not a big favor in my eyes. I don't mean the role as a whole, but stuff like this. Like, you have the opportunity to have, licensed songs in the movie, and you don't put anything from Tenacious D.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Also,
I'm pretty sure you can find a song from there that is not raunchy or contains swear words.
You know, as much as I love Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek here, why not have the other half of Tenacious just DB Kamek so we could see them jamming together for some sort of cool double duo song?
Why
That
did that
means-
turn into a SpongeBob gag?
Damn.
Yeah.
But like
Go
I
on,
love
Jova.
Peaches as well. But yeah, no, my biggest issue is Mario feels almost made unnecessary in this movie. Like, yes, he will accomplish stuff that Peach didn't think of, but for the most part, the audience is left to wonder, why does Peach let him come when he failed? Like, why doesn't Peach solve everything? Like, it's not like only Mario can use power-ups, as we're seeing now. Peach can use them just as well, and she's more capable.
Again, Jova,
apparently so capable that she wasn't even planning to bring any guards with her.
They're pushing so much on the origin story that they actually made Mario arguably a bit too much wimpy until the climax requires for him to actually get the courage. Again, I get the thought process, but it suffers a bit from the surfing Dracula meme, not gonna lie.
Baby Peach.
That also includes the whole eating mushroom. And yes, it basically says
so
that
tiny.
it also basically says that Peach herself was isekai here, which explains why she's human in the world of the Toads.
Yeah, here's the other thing.
Even though again, the Switch version of 3D World seemed to pretty much establish that female Toads when they grow adult to become human thanks to the crown.
She just said there's a universe lot with a lot of galaxies.
That's totally going to be a movie later down the line.
Probably.
I'm not entirely certain if I want them to adapt the Mario Galaxy story, but
And well, me personally, okay. On one hand, I get it. I get why they rely on fan service and a more simplistic plot as a crutch, because the last time they tried something that was more not like that, it was a complete mess.
the problem is that we went from one extreme to the other extreme.
And me personally, my whole thing with quote taking risks is that, well, a lot of the time taking risks means they do something just really stupid and hope people will buy it.
Again, though, Dwibs, it's not a black and white issue, though. Like, again, it's all about the nuance here and there.
On the other hand, especially considering that at this time, I won't say Sonic 3 because we only had Sonic 1 and 2 at this point. But in terms of balancing fan service with a good story, I think the Sonic movies have that over this one.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Because on one hand, yes, I do like a film based on a series to feel somewhat like its series. But on the other hand, if you overuse it too much, you'll end up with stuff like The World Is Not Enough, where Bond has to say James Bond 100 times just to make you feel like you're watching a Bond movie. He uses that stuff like that as a crutch.
And you know another thing that I don't hear anyone mention about this movie? The wasted potential, because you notice how every time there's a potential really good in idea for a backstory, like whenever we just saw Luigi flashing back earlier, we just saw Peach flashing back to her backstory either. Why aren't we actually fleshing out those backstories to give these characters some depth?
Galaxy, here's the Luma. Believe it or not, Japan actually hates this character.
Really?
Yeah, mostly.
I like this existential little freak.
Yeah, that's the thing, Joe. But it's literally a case of cultural differences because apparently the entire shtick about Luma, about his existentialism and we're all gonna die anyway in the cheerful tone. Japan, I remember, has different views about death, in the afterlife. So they find it mostly a waste of time.
But anyway, this Luma is voiced by one of the movie makers' daughter, I believe.
Hooray for nepotism.
It's like...
okay. That kind of thing I can excuse a little bit more because he only has like 6 lines.
Yeah, I'm relatively fine with it.
It's more because, like I said, okay, you have a good idea for a backstory for Peach. You have a good idea for a backstory for the Mario Brothers, but because all those flashbacks last 10 seconds each, so okay, you have an opportunity to flesh out the characters there, and you didn't take advantage of it because who goes into movies expecting a good story? I guess.
Okay, so now it's time to get to one of the biggest casualties of Illumination refusing to let game music be in instead of licensed songs. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Take On Me, but if you've been on the internet, you probably have heard the music that was originally supposed to be on for this scene. A rendition of the Donkey Kong track theme, essentially.
Yep.
That got axed.
Thanks,
In
Universal.
place for Take On Me.
That being
Again,
said,
which is more hilarious because it means also having to raise the cost in order to get the license.
That being said, yes, if you're a fan of Donkey Kong lore, you will absolutely love this part of the movie.
Also, I found it hilarious that one of the things that people did complain when the Donkey Kong Country cartoon aired back in the early 2000s was that the cartoon actually had the occasion to make a couple of original characters not steal with a template of the Kongs that look very out of place, and yet this movie is doing the exact same thing and actually managing to do it.
To my knowledge, a lot of the characters you will see are also from Donkey Kong Country.
Yes, some of them, but they do actually take the occasion to actually have plenty of original designs.
Now that we're at the halfway point, and I know this statement can be viewed as being rooted in negativity, but this is pretty standard fare.
Yes.
Not even for Illumination. This is just the most middle of the road thing
white noise
I've seen. Yeah, if I needed something as background noise to sleep, this is a contender, actually.
This is my point. Yes, it looks like Mario. It certainly is Mario. Here's the thing, though. The plot of a typical Mario game obviously is not going to work for a movie.
That's because they don't have enough of one to make it a movie.
And because the events of Jump and...
For mainline games, I should say.
And
Sorry, go on, Tia.
Because the events of the original Donkey Kong are an in-universe thing, Cranky here is not the original Donkey Kong, and he's just a random guy.
He is the leader of the Kong Kingdom Empire. And, oh, by the way, we haven't met his son yet, but who his son is technically kind of messes with the lore a bit as well.
The thing about this is that here's the thing about... Well, okay, I guess to be fair, I guess we threw off the Rareware lore, I guess, so I guess technically this is the new one. In the original Kong lore that Rare built when they were making the Donkey Kong Country games in Donkey Kong 64, Cranky is not a king. He's just a scientist, but
That's
whatever.
also because the Kongs just live on the island of their own instead of having an entire kingdom of their own.
Yeah, exactly. So technically, okay, I guess, okay, remind me.
No. They did not throw out the old Rare lore. It's just that the later Donkey Kong games are just doing their thing. The Rare lore is still there.
Okay, so if anything, Cranky should be in his lab making potions.
Movie doing original things, Pedro, basically.
Okay, so I guess even the fan service is off in this.
Speaking of fan service, here we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
All right, I will admit I smiled when I go because I love the DK rap, so that's fine by me.
Get that? We have Donkey Kong's actor to thank for including the DK.
I also don't mind it.
Lack of credit for Grant Kirkhope aside, I do like the addition here too.
Okay, so yeah, in this version, Donkey Kong is actually Cranky's son instead of his grandson.
Well, actually, Donkey is indeed his son in the...
No. He's his grandson in the games.
I did the
In Donkey Kong 64, literally the first thing he says when Donkey gets to him is, "Well, if it isn't my good-for-nothing son." So it is son.
I guess
Really?
they
I'm pretty sure
retconned
it's
that.
grandson. That must have
Did
been a retcon. Actually, let me check.
Well, in Donkey Kong 64, he's the son. I don't know if they
Still,
retconned that at some point.
Speaking
but
of voice actor, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. This is a bit more.
I don't like Seth Rogen as a person, but he's a good actor. I will grant him that.
Like this is a much better work that he did compared to Pumbaa in the Lion King remake. You can tell that he's trying a bit more. He's trying a bit more, but I don't know. The only reason I'm not, pushing too much is because I don't know who could have been a good alternative to me. Mario, you literally did
Mario.
not look what mushrooms you got.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, but Job is right. According to the Donkey Kong wiki, he's now his grandfather. Okay.
I don't know. That's funny.
So basically, somewhere between Rare's departure from the series, they retconned the original thing. Okay.
It's also
got
a
it.
cute way, basically, to have something close to the original Donkey Kong, where Mario was very tiny in comparison to Donkey.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I get it, but I did like the idea that Cranky was the original Donkey Kong for 1981. But
Okay, I guess to their credit, they couldn't really do much to say Cranky Kong was the original Kong, so maybe a sequel might say about what he did back in his day.
One thing.
Fireflower.
Okay,
you
okay.
can
That
just-
bit was actually funny how he blows it out.
Okay,
Yes,
I
Lips?
can't- okay, it's been a while since I've seen this movie, so you got the Kongs here, but where's Chunky?
He's dead.
He was there. Well, Chunky was actually there. Chunky's in
He
the.
drowned down there. Or something.
Chunky's in the. Chunky's in the audience.
okay,
We
again,
got a little
I-
shot of him earlier.
I was just referencing something for the sake of a joke for Dweebs. But yes,
Chunky's dead.
we did get the shot of where he was alongside Didi and Dixie.
Yep. Well, look at the bright side. We had to take Illumination to remember Chunky exists over Nintendo. So there's that. I guess I'll take what I can get.
Speaking of instead of 3D World, here's the
Hey,
cat
3D
suit.
World.
Yay!
There he is,
There's
Dibs.
Chunky
See?
literally there.
There you go, Dibs.
Oh, so Chunky's there. There you go. So he's not dead.
I don't like how. That being said, while you bring it up, Dibs, yeah, I don't like how Chunky looks. That's not how Chunky looks, but whatever. Like his proportions are off. His proportions are off.
I just said claw his eyes out.
Okay, so here's something I'm also a bit iffy on in the movie. Now, it's good that Mario uses the power-ups, but I will say this. He only wins every fight in this movie after he uses a power-up. Remember, kids, you can't win your fights unless you use enhancements.
Well,
Not
to
drugs.
be fair,
Take performance enhancing drugs.
to be fair,
Okay,
that's
I feel like that's reaching for this movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
to be
yeah,
fa-
yeah, yeah,
to be-
yeah,
To be
I'm
fair,
mostly
using
joking with that.
using power-ups to beat the boss is easier. That's literally a Mario thing if I've ever heard it.
Again,
Yeah, like, come on.
For the original Super Mario, the entire point is that if you got a fire flower, you basically cut yourself the Bowser fights very easily. So
Yeah, basically.
Oh, yeah, I'm mostly fine with that. And yes, he spares him. I guess I would have just preferred if he did one fight that he won without the power-up. But, again, like,
also,
that
Jova,
one's
remember,
more
we need to keep referencing stuff.
pretty
Mhm.
much, yeah.
But it's actually around this point when I was in the theater that I was going, okay, those references are neat and all, but can you do something more than that? Because this is just a commercial so far.
Let me put it like this. It literally feels like the inverse of the first Sonic movie. The first Sonic movie had references, but it was mostly its own thing, But it managed to balance that out by having a surprisingly good narrative that was, able to be appreciated because we didn't have butt ugly Sonic ruining things, essentially. This, on the other hand, feels like a technical wonder case of animated Mario, just how people would love a video game adaptation to be, and it has all the stuff from the Mario stuff, but it's just like, okay, throw this Easter egg, have them go for this set piece. What story? We don't need a story.
So yeah, speaking instead of adding lore, apparently the Kongs are the ones who actually build the carts for the silver.
This is actually pretty cool, I won't lie.
Also because, again, X-Men Fury Road was very popular, so this entire sequence and the upcoming one are basically a giant reference to that.
I don't
So,
think
yeah.
they did.
Alright, Funky.
And yes,
Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck, because, yeah, we need another license song that really doesn't fit. Like, in fact, Thunderstruck fit more when he was present in the Battleship movie, and I argue even that was kind of a waste.
Well, I'm at the very least glad that Funky's the one building it, at least.
I
Remember,
don't
Also-
remember half these licensed songs being in the movie.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. Somebody totally made a bet saying, guys, I bet you we could totally fit in Mario Kart here.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why we have this sequence. Well, okay, there is technically another reason we have this sequence, but that's more plot
again, well, it's
relevant.
also to sell toys, Drova, remember? All the merchandise.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Again,
there was a
let's
ton
not
of merchandise for
forget
this.
that at its very core, this is a movie for a very young audience, and it needs to sell toys.
Not just
to
that.
sell the young audience.
Not just that, allow me to mention something. Basically, Shiroi, take a wild guess what the first thing you see in theaters when you watch this movie. A commercial of someone saying, by the way, all these Mario games you can get before the movie starts. I'm not kidding.
Hey,
Buy our
started.
games.
Here's
Buy our games.
Here's the hat from Odyssey, and even the Piranha Plant bouquet.
Yep.
I'm kind of
I
sad
need to
they
play
didn't-
Odyssey still.
Oh, absolutely wonderful game.
I have it.
Okay, another thing about Chris Pratt and Charlie Day in this movie, apparently, when
Don't look at me like that.
when they first started, they apparently had their roles perform them with much thicker Brooklyn accents, but they were told to tone the accent down, and even they didn't disagree with that. Being actors to directors,
They
they did what they
complied.
were told.
Mhm.
Wait, hold on. They're heading down their secret passage, which we apparently knew of, so it's not secret.
Now, a question for you specifically, Pedro, since you brought it up. The Mario games, I already don't have the biggest attachment to them, but like the Donkey Kong games, I have even less attachment to. Is Funky Kong a mechanic? Like, based on what
Yes.
you said? Is that what?
Yes.
Okay. Because
And
I didn't
he-
know that when you mentioned about the cart stuff. So
Normally, it's just a
It-
surfer dude. In the base country games, he's there to, like you just said, also to be a mechanic. By the
It gives you
time
weapons.
of 64, he goes to war. Not even kidding.
Yes.
Basically,
Oh, God.
Yeah, and this is, of course, okay. The next 10 minutes of this movie is just a game of Mario Kart. I'm not kidding. That's just them in
The Rainbow Road!
it's just them in Rainbow Road. You see, Shiro, what you should take from this is you should buy Mario Kart 8 Deluxe right now. That's what you should take from this.
the Mario Kart series is like the part of the franchise I consistently buy from. I don't need to
Well,
use it.
this is gonna be.
Also,
Well,
why
we're
is
gonna-
this not in space?
Well, too bad. You're going to get a 10-minute commercial and don't like it, young lady.
This is gonna be published after the Nintendo Direct of the Switch 2, which is probably gonna show the next commercial Mario Kart to be released as from the teaser. So we'll have to see.
Oh, God.
This dialogue.
Yeah, the dialogue is also...
A princess would never go out with you. Again, just checking that off the list. Everyone underestimates
This
the
is,
guy who
again-
totally will get together with the princess.
This is the peak example of the dialogue that the average, moviegoer these days really detests and wishes to actually not see. The kind of, sterile banter that has no absolute meaning and serves only to annoy you and waste your time.
It's
Mhm.
really my big issue here. It feels just so by the numbers and so Blah.
That
And
being
again,
said, I like both the Yaku sequence and the music that goes with it, at the very least.
Yeah. The best thing
yeah.
about this movie is the score, obviously. But Debs, allow me to. You said earlier that you didn't even remember most of these licensed songs. You said being in the movie, right? Allow me to pose a theory for that. It's because this movie, like me and Joe have been explaining, is disposable. Yes, it's kind of fun as a little 90-minute rush of adrenaline, but after that, it basically leaves your mind because there's nothing substantial about it.
I do have another theory, Pager, as well. I mean, that one's valid, but I do have another one. Since I was watching this movie in 4DX, I could follow the movie. I was also having my chair constantly moving around and me being rained on and sprayed with mist smells.
So basically, what you're telling me, Dwebs, is that as a reference to our infomercials, April Fools that I did for us, you were watching the entire movie while being in the Hawaii chair.
It sounds like
Yeah,
you were on a
pretty much.
motion ride.
Yeah, 4DX is basically a big. It's like those motion rides you got in like seaside theme parks, but it's coded towards a whole movie.
I wouldn't be
And
too
there's a few more steps.
I wouldn't be too surprised, Joe, if they actually had one for some theme parks based on these. Hell, again, are Universal theme parks over the world tending to have something like that?
Oh, actually, there is a Mario Kart ride at Universal.
But yeah, the basic gist of it is that Funky Kong is the tech guy of the Kong clan, basically.
Uh-oh.
Don't know about that.
Again, like I said, this is technically they get most of the references and the lore right, like Jova said. It's just that, okay, that's cool and all. Are you actually going to do something interesting with said lore?
You know, I will say also, this would have been an interesting moment for them to actually have the princess get captured.
It's one of those things where references and fan service cannot carry a 90-minute movie. We need more than just that.
I will say as well, like, I didn't want to compare the two too much because, you know, these movies, like the Mario movie isn't trying to do what the Sonic movies are trying to do. But considering these are the two franchises that get, like, put against each other the most, like, even though they're not trying to be the same type of movie, and say what you will about the human stuff in the Sonic movies and it being live action, but those movies have a lot of charm still. Even in the first one, which is still a pretty rough movie, even though I enjoyed it, this movie is lacking in the charm department.
Speaking of something added new, an origin story for the Blue Shell of all things, huh?
Yeah.
He was created by rage and resentment and a desire for revenge.
Let me talk. Let me talk about what is still my personal favorite movie adaptation of a video game, the Professor Layton movie, where that movie also has plenty of references, but they're just there, and the plot is the main focus of that movie. You know,
I've never really considered that one an adaptation, more like since it's technically part of the continuity of the series as well.
I guess
it's like having a game just in a visual format instead of actually having the gameplay component.
Well, to me, that would be the ideal way.
Well, okay, my point, Pedro, is that, you know, instead of actually trying to adapt the story of a previous game, it's just a piece of content. It's kind of like Kingsglaive, basically. That's what I mean. You know?
Fine, I guess.
I mean, it's not a movie, but I forget what the series is actually called, but the anime adapts the game it was based from.
Layton Detective Agency. That's a good thing to bring up. The Layton
it's
anime.
It's not a movie, but I think it counts.
It's an adaptation of Layton's Mystery Journey, the games, and yeah, it does a fantastic job adapting. Improving, making the storylines of the games even better, while also throwing in its own original plot lines into the mix as well.
It actually had the job of wrapping up the lore since they never made a sequel, sadly.
Well, Jova, that's because the fans didn't like it. Again, but I don't want to get into a rant about how I don't like the Layton fan base.
Instead, I'm gonna say that this is obviously the moment of, you know, where Donkey Kong and Mario basically stop having their, you know, heated rivalry and become besties.
Was that the
And
Mario
here's-
64 eel?
Yes, we're gonna see it later,
Oh.
Shiroi. Good.
No, I don't
It-
want to see that again.
Good eye for
Oh,
guessing.
Shiroi. In Odyssey, they're high definition.
Uh,
But yeah, okay. Time for me to point out another plot issue here. So Mario got to accomplish something by winning the fight and getting the Kongs to help out Peach with their army.
Which
The
was
Kong
pointless
army
anyway.
proceeds to get immediately captured, so it really feels like this movie is eating away at any accomplishments that Mario makes. Again, I'm not saying that they intentionally did this to make Mario look bad, but it feels like the plot was definitely secondary to whatever it was they were planning on.
Here's what we could have done. We could have had Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad be the main cast, so we can do a Super Mario Bros. 2 / 3D World thing. Why not do that?
Or heck, like I said, you could have at least had Peach get captured and then kidnapped during the Kong race sequence. And then Mario has to, like, storm Bowser's castle or something to save her, like in the game. Like, were we really that afraid of just letting Peach getting kidnapped? Like, even if you were afraid of pissing people off with that, at least all you had to do was maybe just let her get kidnapped the first game, then any other later sequel, it can be someone else who gets captured. It can be Daisy or Rosalina for what most of the fans will care for. Dude,
I'm not really keen on that idea of Rosalina being kidnapped. Rosalina is meant
have
to be
the
a goddess.
other two ever been kidnapped in their respective?
Daisy,
yes. Daisy, yes.
Daisy has been kidnapped a
Okay.
total of once, and then apparently Daisy has better security, although to her credit, she doesn't just run a kingdom, she runs an empire, because Sarasaland is actually 4 kingdoms put together, which by definition makes it an empire, so
Yeah.
Daisy apparently has her shit together.
Remember, Jova, Rosalina is the closest thing the Mario universe has to a goddess, so I'm not entirely certain if that's a good idea.
Like, the
I mean,
first
to
game
be fair,
certainly
she got
had her in,
captured.
the first game had her in trouble, yes, but I don't specifically have her remembering being kidnapped.
No.
Okay,
God, I have to agree with Shiroi. Bowser veers into the uncanny valley way too many times.
Also, I feel like they're trying to have their cake and eat it with Bowser. He's so evil, but he apparently never fought to capture and kidnap Peach, even though he clearly has the manpower to do so.
Again, we're trying to have the whole thing about, oh, I need to actually win her properly, to demonstrate how much I love her, but, well, as you can see, tough shit on that.
Yeah, you probably could. Why didn't you do this from the get-go, like Jova just said?
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
apparently-
because Bowser's word is his bond.
Also,
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
Bowser's big ploy was supposed to be the star, but nah, apparently he could have just relied on Kamek to pretty much do the heavy lifting. Like, I get why the star is in the plot, since that's going to be useful later to the heroes, but in regards to Bowser, he
Oh yeah, remember
doesn't really
Luigi?
do much with
He's
it.
in this movie too, I forgot.
That's right. Luigi's in this movie, isn't he?
Okay,
I
and
forgot
also,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to say it. That's something the original movie did better. Actually having the Mario Brothers, be the Mario Brothers.
Again, Jonah,
Although,
that's also the
okay,
thing.
one-
I wouldn't have it too much of a problem if it wasn't in the fucking title. Because if this was just called Super Mario, again, as distorted as this is, I will say, well, that's what they were, trying to do. But this is technically all borderline false advertising.
Yeah, like, shoot, even Master, like, shoot,
Jesus.
even the Masters of the Universe show can at least claim, well, we technically titled it Masters of the Universe, not He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This movie, not so much.
Yes, please.
Okay,
Oh, they
okay,
look so cute.
all right. To be fair, in the live action film, it was kind of Luigi that got most of the character development in that. Mario just kind of went from plumber to plumber with a decent costume.
To be fair, I'd
Like-
say it works in the sense that Mario had the flat character arc. Wow, the movie is a lot about Luigi
Hold on, Jova.
learning
I need to
kinda-
comment on this. Wait, now you want to have a plot and conflict?
Oh, Yes, right. We gotta throw in this where Donkey Kong has an arc about needing to be respected by his dad.
Because again, these two characters have daddy issues, so that's what eventually bond together.
They kind of did like I don't mind what they've done with Peach. I do get the criticism though. But like Luigi, I do actually have a problem with because they kind of went the opposite end with him because yeah, he does get the short end of the stick even in the games themselves, but he's not this bad.
There you go, Shiroi, that was the
Look.
she's gone now.
Okay, bye.
Also, look at that, guys. We got a barrel racing in reference.
There you go.
Buy our ga-
Hey, there's King Bob-omb and
Oh,
King
Hey,
yes,
look, it's
King
King
Boo.
Bob-omb.
I
King
know what that
Bob-omb.
is!
And King Bob-omb from Mario 64. I know who that is.
Also, Yoshi Egg among the treasures. I'm sure that's not important.
You see, Shiroi, what you should take away from this is that you need to buy Switch Online so you can play Mario 64 on your Nintendo Switch.
Also,
No,
Buy our
I
games.
do have the compilation actually, but
Well, okay,
my takeaway.
Buy more shit.
My takeaway is that I like the Luma the best.
Also, Peach's
Yeah, the
dress
sweet
from
release
Odyssey.
of death.
Again, this entire wedding thing is not completely, but, still lifted by Odyssey. Even Bowser's entire smoking is from that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst carousel I've ever seen.
I mean, they did say they wouldn't sacrifice the toads. Everyone else, though, bye.
Yeah, hey, you know what? He appreciates the letter of the law. That's the
flower.
equivalent of that's the equivalent of smuggling a gun into the bouquet when you think about it. Also, now she's Elsa.
At this point, just, put the hashtag badass in every scene that she appears, just so people can
Again.
get it.
I don't even mind that Peach gets to be awesome. It's just this doesn't feel like Peach's way of being
Why
awesome
can't-
from the games. This feels
why
like again Daisy, but wearing
Why can't-
Peach's costume.
Why can't... Yeah, I have a question. Why can't both Mario... In fact, no. Why can't Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad be all awesome at the same time? Why does it have to be mostly her?
Again, my guess is it's to show how Mario is truly coming into being a hero as he shows what he learns and whatnot, so that he's the one who saves the day. But again, my issue is that Mario feels like a bit player in his own movie.
Also,
Also,
Flower
fire
DK.
Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
This action scene is actually pretty cool. I will give him that.
They want to do the whole one-take thing that, honestly, I don't know who premiered it in animation, but...
They just made a reference to the spinning animation from Mario 64 there. See? I know what that is too.
I mean, like, for the Peach stuff, I get, like, it makes sense with the plot because Mario and Luigi are new here. They're not going to be as competent. She's been here since she was a little baby. But, like, that's why I don't mind it. But, I don't know. You do.
Look. I will give it credit that the plot does facilitate it. It's
Here's
just
the
that
thing,
that's
though.
what they chose to do.
Yeah,
though.
and that begs the question then, Shiroi. Why would you write a plot that makes Mario not that effective then?
Oh, here we go.
They should have
wait.
dropped the he's new here angle or, like, just left
Wait.
the New York stuff out of it completely.
So
Also-
I got a minute. She just assassinated another kid.
Yeah, she committed
Yeah.
regicide. Remember,
Yeah,
she's
like,
just
I
that
mean-
cool.
Like, seriously, poor King Bob-omb, dude just wanted to show up for the wedding. He didn't
Okay,
ask for
that's the thing,
smoke.
Jova. King Bob-omb's characterization really is inconsistent. Sometimes he's really just a guy passing by. Sometimes he's as much as a dick as Bowser. Like,
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, obviously, for the sake of N64, he's a bad guy, sure, but here, my dude just showed up for the wedding. He didn't ask to die.
Yeah, for the record, Peach just murdered someone, by the way.
But she did it awesomely, Pedro. That's the important
Ah,
part.
of course.
Hey,
It's
Flying Tanuki.
Oh, is this the part where I'm supposed to feel something, I guess?
That's not okay.
It's a
Tanuki, isn't it?
tanuki, you ignorant.
Like, is that what
May Tom Nook and his loans be upon ye.
Italians don't know what raccoons are? That's fucking stupid. Well, shit.
Shouldn't it be Bonsai Bill?
It depends, Jova.
Oh, right, the Bomber Bill's the even bigger thing than the Bonsai Bill, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if I recall correctly, this is also where we catch up a bit with referencing the 1993 movie, believe it or not. Not completely, but you're about to see.
Yep.
Ow.
Right in the
Poke in
eye.
Again, what's
Oh,
with all
shoot.
Good
this?
thing I didn't. Good thing I was looking away at that point.
But what's with all the slow-mo again in shots in this movie?
It's to make it epic.
Of course. Blech. So yeah, here's what Mario is gonna do. Make this someone else's problem.
So, interestingly enough, for the original movie, originally the final confrontation between Mario and Koopa was supposed to involve Mario actually throwing the bomb down Koopa's throat in the New York world, but due to, well, okay, the whole production being a nightmare, that got ixnayed overall. Here, though, I guess someone decided, you know what? Maybe we should give it its dues, because yes, the final confrontation does in fact happen back in New York.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not just that,
Like
we're basically doing a worlds collide kind of thing. Because of the explosion thing, the warp gets unstable, and now the two worlds are about to slightly merge. Not to the extent of a 1993 movie, but you'll see.
Oh, hey, Balloon Man.
Yeah, balloon fight. This is fucking New York City. How do you manage to run into each other this much?
I'm guessing this is meant to be. Oh no, it's the Wrecking Crew. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Foreman Sherman's bike.
Also, too, I think if I forgot if did we mention that the character Charles Martinet is playing is meant to be Mario Segali?
Well, like Jova said, it's just called Jumpman, but appearance-wise, yes, it's actually based around the original mechanic that Miyamoto and the others found.
Allow me to explain something for those who don't know. Mario's name came from Mario Segali, who was at the time the guy who helped out with the arcades of the original Mario games, and as an homage to him for helping out, Miyamoto named his character Mario, and that's where the Mario name came from.
It's a really interesting thing having Italian immigrant in Japan actually working as a mechanic.
Yeah, so basically Mario's Italian nationality came as an homage to Mario Segali. Yes.
Well, again, even if, as of recent lore and everything, at least for this movie is concerned, is more about, Italian America than pure.
Can't believe that Bowser's whole motivation is that he's a simp.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's always been that's his motivation in the games as well. That's always been his motivation.
That's mostly a joke, though,
Bowser
for fans.
again. That's the thing. Dorkly over exaggerate this all the fucking time. But yes, Bowser at the end of the day is still an incel when you get down to it.
Damn.
Well. Okay, to be fair, he apparently has gotten laid since Junior is his biological son.
Yeah.
So
Technically, he has gotten laid. The thing is, we never learn where the fuck is Junior's mother. And who
According
she
to Miyamoto, he is the mother. Anyway, this is also the moment for Mario to finally grow the pair of balls and everything, because again, climax and all.
Oh yeah, hi Luigi.
you were in this.
Isn't this called the Mario Bros. Movie?
My God,
It's
even
called
when
the Super Mario Brothers movie.
you
Yes,
see
that's the
what
title.
I mean? Even in the moment where it's Mario that's supposed to shine, Peach needs to have a pivotal contribution to that. The movie needs to be absolutely sure about it.
Yep.
Luigi pulling a
And yeah,
literal
like I
Captain
said,
America.
in the last 10 minutes, we finally get to see a glimpse of the two brothers working together for this. Again, it's the surfing Dracula effect. That's the problem that plagues a lot of, adaptation and reimagining these days, where, it focuses way too much on the origin part, and we get a snippet of what the original might have been at the very
This
end.
you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of how in the Ratchet and Clank movie, Ratchet and Clank barely interact with each
Jova,
other.
do you want, again, now we're actually getting a remix of the Power Star theme. Jova, do you might want to tell the audience what song was supposed to be in this place?
Jump from Van Halen, which, okay, to their credit, it was going to be Jump with Mario sound effects added in, which could have been cool, but yeah, it's probably best we got this instead.
Could you even imagine if someone else was doing the score for this? We would have even worse soundtrack because, again, Brian Tyler had to fight like mad to keep these in. So I can only imagine what it would have been like if Brian Tyler wasn't a Mario fan.
And they still had licensed music in this movie.
Yeah, again, that's basically the whole thing about this movie, both for animation, story, and the music. What we got is just, passable overdose of references, but that just begs the question of how much worse would have been the product if Illumination was not kept in track.
I honestly do have to wonder overall in that
That's
regard.
a reference.
Yeah.
See, this bit could have been really cool and satisfying if the plot built up to it in a cool way.
Yeah. Because this is good.
Yeah, they
no.
basically do DBZ shit, so why not
Like,
literally Power Star?
To the movie's credit, the action is choreographed very well in this movie. Like, if you're watching it for just Easter eggs, references, and cool action sequences, shoot, literally just like the games in that regard.
I'm pretty sure Bowser broke his arm.
What, you didn't picture yourself flat on your face while she approaches you?
And yeah, Bowser's fate is to be recipient of this small mushroom, which apparently, according to the movie, its effect won't wear off. Yeah, I don't get it either.
I guess what happens is you have to get hit since Mario got hit with a mini mushroom, but then I guess turn back to normal and Donkey Kong slammed him against the wall.
Yeah, they said earlier in the movie.
Okay, fair enough.
Power.
And yeah,
and
that's
now
the moral
Mario
of the
has
movie.
the approval.
Mario solving his daddy issues. That's what
I forgot. We forgot to make a storyline about that. Oh well, it kept your kids quiet for 90 minutes, didn't it?
Hey,
right.
He said the line.
But it means nothing in this context.
Even the dog approves. for whatever it's worth.
To show that the character arc is truly
Again,
complete.
we're also operating on Chicken Little logic. You know, the whole thing about I don't care about my son except when they actually do something beneficial to the community. Like,
What? Guys, it's simple. Just save
and
the
of
world and
course,
you'll...
if I recall correctly, it's happening now. We're getting Mr. Blue Sky because Guardians of the Galaxy. Here's another, license song that's been overused because Chris Pratt.
I like the Electric Light Orchestra. It's just, well, not sure what this song has to do with much.
Because Chris Pratt dweebs. It's only because of that.
And they have a house. Oh, okay. So one thing that's a bit unclear is like if this is them moving to the Mushroom Kingdom, or if like their hometown of New York is also bonded with the Mushroom Kingdom. Since
they seem to have a direct line with that, so there is that. All right, stay tuned because there are 2 post-credit scenes, believe it or not.
That's how it ends.
Yeah.
The Super Mario Brothers.
Wow.
movie.
Okay.
That's the thing.
They kind of rushed
Well,
that.
hold
actually,
on.
we get to this.
Oh yes, hi.
Can you go away, please?
Oh, cool. Let me go get my saxophone.
Sorry, Drova, too late.
I don't know. I like this little freak.
Anyway, again, stay tuned because there are 2 different post-credit scenes. But yeah, that's kind of it. The movie just...
That being said, Brian Tyler was able to put in instead of a pop song, instead we have a medley of various Mario tunes orchestrated by Brian Tyler, and it sounds great, of course.
Again, I also like a bit the creativity of the credits. They're doing some paper mache kind of thing. Effect at the very least.
We're even gonna hear Gusty Garden Galaxy from Mario Galaxy later.
Yeah, that's also because Koji Kondo, as mentioned also in the marketing, supervised a bit part of the score. I wonder if his presence. I wonder if his presence also was pivotal for actually removing some of the licensed songs.
That's the weird part too. Like Dweb said earlier about Grant Kirkhope not getting credited for the Donkey DK rap. Maito Yokota, the actual guy who composed Gusty Garden Galaxy, is not credited. Only Koji Kondo is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you know, guys? Koji Kondo does everything.
No, he does not. Koji Kondo hasn't done much Mario music since
I'm sure
Sunshine,
his father is
actually.
very proud.
That's the thing. He still does Mario music, don't get me wrong, but nowadays he only does like 2, maybe 4 tracks per game because he's allowing the new, younger composers to take over for him. See? There you go, Gusty Garden Galaxy.
Maybe he's credited in
It
the
seems like
actual
they always
rolling
like to go
credits
back to that
after
riff.
this bit.
It's actually one of the more popular tracks from the Galaxy games, Drova. That's why they kept
Yes.
Well, since I don't have a Wii, I'm probably gonna. Well, not anymore. I guess I'm gonna have to wait until they make a Switch 2 port, maybe, of the Galaxy games.
There is already the part of the collection one from...
Free All-Star. There's Free All-Stars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no one can buy a new copy of that anymore.
Oh, here we go.
Here's the first.
Oh.
It's more about Jack Black improvising in the recording booth.
He still pines for her. Oh, by the way, his piano has the words Ludwig von Koop on it, which implies either this is Ludwig's piano he was playing on earlier.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Okay then. Again,
Okay,
Yeah,
the evil villain getting his comeuppance like that.
That was cute.
And keep in mind,
But yeah.
of course they were not gonna kill Bowser. They need him for any of the sequels that they're gonna have.
Why? There's a
I think he's immortal.
Yeah, technically it's by order of appearance, but hey, Kevin Michael Richardson gets first credit in this movie.
Top billing.
Also-
Incredible.
Also, yes, Carrie Payton plays the King Penguin, flipping cyborg. But yeah, no, like if you pay attention earlier, the piano has Ludwig's name on it, which implies that that's either Ludwig's piano or Bowser later gave that to Ludwig as a present.
Honestly, Joe, I'm more surprised that considering how overstuffed these movies with references, they did not pull it teeth and make it the Mario 64 piano.
I guess, to be fair, they would have to explain why it doesn't attack Bowser. So I'm guessing the Koopalings will probably be in a sequel or something. Although,
We know the sequel
surprisingly,
is in
despite
development, supposed to be released next year, I think.
Yeah.
So
I guess I will give them credit. They didn't fast track the sequel, even though, of course, this movie made over $1 billion. And before somebody says, "Oh, well, it made over $1 billion, that's a clear sign of quality," let me put it like this: this was Mario. Even if this was actively bad, it was at the very least likely to profit, if not make $1 billion. Now I know what some
I
may
thought they said
say,
the
but
last
wasn't
time.
the well, there's a big difference between this movie and the last time, Dweebs. The first Mario movie was made back when Mario was, well, not the king of games, to put it lightly. Like, the Mario series was definitely in its infancy when the first movie was made. Mario nowadays is, well, pretty much the Mickey Mouse of gaming, essentially. Like, even Mario's lesser stuff still sells a ton, essentially. Like, you kind of have to go out of your way to make a Mario thing not sell.
RIP,
Yeah,
RIP
basically.
Alpha Dream.
Although, weren't, like, members of Alpha Dream back for making
Yes,
Eldership at
but
least?
that just to mention, Java, remember, the remake of Bowser's Inside Story for the 3DS was registered as the first major Mario flop game in a very long time. I think it's still
Oh,
on
Someone
the
yeah,
record.
someone actually, very conveniently for me, someone actually made a comparison image between current Cranky and old Cranky. There we go, Jova. In the Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong 64 lore that Rare created, he's meant to be Donkey's father. But then later Nintendo retconned that so that now he's the grandson. But originally,
I guess they wanted to have the effect because Cranky looks way too old, so they thought, oh, we need to keep Donkey Kong young or some shit.
I'm more familiar with the lore, but yeah, nowadays when it comes to Donkey Kong Jr. is actually our Donkey Kong's father,
Which still begs the
basically.
question then, when is actually DK's father if they actually, go for a lore like, we're skipping a generation? What happened? Did King K. Rool killed him?
yeah, why not?
Possibly.
I get that Miyamoto, and remember, Miyamoto has himself said that he's not particularly all that keen on what Rare did with the Donkey Kong Country series lore-wise. So it's relatively clear that when Rare got booted off Donkey Kong, he basically rechanged everything to fit more how he prefers things.
Okay,
But
to his credit, the only change would be the whole grandson thing. Like, other than that, it doesn't seem like he ripped out any of the Rare lore.
well, Jova, when was the last time we saw Donkey fighting the Kremlings?
Smash Ultimate. Well, technically
Yeah,
four.
but that's not a Donkey Kong game. That's a Smash game.
No, I get it.
Technically-
But my point is that I get it what you mean, but from what I understand, those were decisions from the retro team because they were afraid they were not going to recapture, what Rare did, and instead of pissing people off, they opted to just, do something completely different because at that point, even if they fucked up, which, for all the people, DK Rap from Donkey 64, done by no one for some reason. Poor Grant. Again, from what I understand, basically it was a thing of choice from Retro themselves rather than being an editorial mandate. It could have still been Miyamoto puppeting the strings for all we know. Very possible, I can believe that. But otherwise, I don't know what to tell you.
Also, they were technically against the Kremlings and Barrel Blasters too, which was still at that point. Like, it seems definitely more like that's a retro decision. Like, I haven't heard anything suggesting. Oh, here we go.
So, is anyone here seen Godzilla 1998? Yes, I know, Dweebs, lower your hand. Because
Hey, look.
it's the Yoshi egg that arrived and it's cracking
Oh,
out
yeah,
like
that.
New York.
There you
Forgot
go,
about this.
Dwebs. You're gonna have to wait until the next movie to find out if they got Yoshi's look right.
And I'm pretty
Okay,
sure
Actually, we
to
already
be
saw
fair,
a
there
whole
was a-
herd of Yoshi.
There was like a 2-second cameo of a bunch of Yoshis. Oh, and my Blu-ray said, "Thank you for watching this feature presentation. Stay tuned for bonus features."
Also, I'm pretty sure they just recycled the stock Yoshi exclamation from Totaka instead of actually calling him to actually read that, making that verse. I don't know. All right, that's it. Final thoughts. Who wants to start?
Can I go first?
Waves.
This movie is well, now that I can watch it without being moved around a lot in my chair and having the smell of dirt sprayed into my face and being rained on, it's fine. I wasn't expecting like this grand masterpiece of filmmaking when it comes to this, especially considering that I think Nintendo, especially, were treading more on eggshells because because remember, they were so disappointed with how the last one turned out. They swore off making a live action movie. And I don't even know if Detective Pikachu even really counts because that was the Pokemon
I
company.
mean, it's hybrid, I guess. So
It's a perfectly fine movie. I can excuse it more for this one. It's their first attempt at doing a movie like this, as it is actually feels more like Mario. But when they do the next movie, I wonder if they're gonna try some other things.
glad to see.
I like the music. The animation is amazing. Well, the Mushroom Kingdom looks exactly like it should. Even Brooklyn looks fine enough. Because one thing I do appreciate, sometimes some movies just have the real world be really drab and have the other one
Yeah.
be fantastical. Whereas this one portrays New York as it's a decent enough looking city, even if it's only like one block of it, maybe two. I don't know. I have to ask Jova on that one. The cast are, for the most part, fine. I mean, Chris Pratt and Charlie Day are okay as the Mario and Luigi, but more so Charlie Day, in spite of what little Luigi got to do in the movie. Jack Black was good as Bowser. I wasn't expecting him to pull off that kind of voice. I don't know if it was all him or whether they put it through a voice changer afterwards, but whatever it was good. Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach was fine. Keegan-Michael Key, his take on Toad's a lot better than the one in the games. I'll say that much. Yeah. This movie does one thing actually better than the games. Having a Toad voice, it doesn't make me want to claw my ears off.
Forgot to leave. Do you have any general memory on what the cartoon actually had in terms of voice acting? Because I can tell you
Yes.
that, yeah. So
Yes,
you
I do.
might remember, how grating Toad is even in that one.
Yeah. I'm really glad I didn't go that route. And the Luma that longs for death is my favorite character in the movie. Mainly because I actually do kind of like dog humor like that. And it wasn't too out of place in this movie, to be honest, because I mean it was trapped over a volcano for years. Although I wonder where Rosalina was.
Well, again, that's probably a case where, the Luma just got lost in the meantime. Maybe it's just a small world building for later. A bit similar to why the Kongs are in this movie. It's just world building for future movies because, again, gonna need that cinematic universe, kind of bread.
I mean, there are plenty of Lumas. Maybe Rosalina just lost count.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I mean, goddesses can make mistakes too.
It might be set up for when we eventually get Rosalina entering in play here.
Again, we'll have to see
Maybe.
what the direction that the sequels actually will take.
To be perfectly honest, considering how this movie turned out, I'm totally instead of having Rosalina be the quiet, wise goddess
she
that
will
she
be
is
even
in
more sassy. Yeah, I can
she'll
believe that.
they'll probably make her super sassy. They'll make her. And as how much cooler and more powerful she is to be fair than Mario. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not too keen on them adapting to Mario Galaxy.
Pedro.
Not really.
Writers, if you want to do sassy, tomboyish, cool, and smart, Daisy is right there. Like, even in
She's
the
right
context of-
there.
I get you, Jova.
Like-
As the Donkey Kong palm, curls, Daisy will be voiced by Zendaya.
oh boy.
The problem is not the actress. The problem is the
It's
direction
the
of the writing.
overexposure.
Like I can like, even if you have Zendaya as Daisy, that can work as long as you give her a good, well-written Daisy. That can work just fine. It's just more so the fact that the characters are not particularly well represented. Go on.
I'm gonna laugh if legit Daisy is the only girl who actually is dainty and sweet, because she is actually, out of the free princesses, whether or not you consider Rosalina a princess, they are referred to as the free princesses. Daisy has the most reason to act the way that Peach did in this movie.
My main little gripe is that, especially when compared to the 2 Sonic movies we had before, this does seem to be a little top-heavy on the fan service. Like a lot of you guys have said. It's not like the film forgets to have a story, it's just barely enough to count as one.
If you want to go a step further, yeah, while technically it came after, Sonic 3 took it to pretty much the zenith extreme. It was incredibly heavy on adapting the story it came from, but still remember to, have a good story on top of that.
But Jova and
But
Wibbs.
Maria doesn't say sayonara, it's ruined forever.
But Jova and Wibbs. I hear you. I hear you. But look at all these Mario games for the Switch that you can buy right now.
I've already bought some of them.
Well, buy the
yeah.
others. Buy the rest.
We're gonna get a Mario Party reference in the next movie, I just know.
What,
Hmm.
like have the second act breakup, the ruined friendship?
Have you bought Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, Wibbs?
No.
Well, go buy it.
We literally
This-
included music from Bowser's Fury in this.
Exactly. Go buy
Maybe
it.
that's why I didn't recognize it, because since I've not played the game,
Anyway.
I've not heard the music.
Anyway,
Are you done?
Well,
with
there's all the more reason to buy it then.
Are you excited for the
Um,
sequel?
I wouldn't mind going to see it. I mean, I'm not going to see it, but I'm actually more interested. Now that this movie wasn't a gigantic, dumpster fire like the last movie was in terms of quality and box office. I'm actually wondering how what other franchises of Nintendo's will get adapted. Which
Well,
one they
we're
do
getting
first.
the live
The
action
Zelda
Zelda
movie.
movie by Avi Arad. Oh,
and apparently
Okay,
it's
okay,
going to be
okay,
a live action
okay.
one.
Okay.
Okay, to be
Avi
fair,
Arad.
live action can work for Zelda.
Yeah. Okay. Avi Arad aside. To be
He's
fair,
legit my only worry.
a live action Zelda game, yes. If you go the Lord of the Rings route, that can work. That's fine.
So what you're saying is they should film it in New Zealand and
No, please. Can we please not have Link climb the mountain 50 fucking times,
I mean,
please?
to be fair, Pedro, it's one of the imagery of the first game's manual.
Okay, but does he have to do it 50 times though?
I wouldn't mind the Legend of Zelda movie scored by Howard Shaw.
Sure, that can work.
But yeah, that's about it. It's a perfectly fine movie, but just compared to other game movies that have surrounded it a lot lately, it's not very high up on the total poll. I mean, it's better than Borderlands.
Yeah.
Congrats, I guess.
That's going to be the quote on the poster.
Well,
It's better than Borderlands.
I can make also another prediction when movies are out. I bet that this is still better than what the Minecraft movie is gonna be.
Well,
it's
I think it's out in just over a week. But yeah, that's it. I'm done.
Pedro?
Yeah, Pedro.
Yeah, as someone who's probably the biggest fan of the mainline Mario platformers here, look, my heart is not made of stone. I'm not going to lie and say that, yeah, I had disposable, basic fun watching all the Mushroom Kingdom being rendered in 3D right there, and the Easter eggs and the fences. My heart is not made of stone. At first, it was kind of cool, I guess, at the same time. But then, by the time you get to the halfway point, you start to think, okay, this is cool and all, but if I wanted, I could just play the games for all of this shit. Are you actually going to give me any kind of a plot and characters that actually carry this night, that make this movie have a reason to exist? Not to mention, unlike Dwibs, I already bought all of these games that you're telling me to buy. So
Well, clearly, Pedro, you're meant to buy instead the merchandise now.
yeah, clearly. So yeah, are you actually going to do something like that? Actually, is because I was under the impression this was supposed to be a movie. And
Well,
he-
Pedro, we have heard your complaints and we've decided to present you with a video game adaptation of the movie.
Brilliant. Like, okay, let me put it this way. Like, the main defense I've heard from people and like Deji who love this movie is that, oh, but don't you see, this movie they were playing it safe. But the next movie, the next one is going to be the one where they totally bring in a better plot with better character development. My answer to that is, well, why can't they just do that from the get-go? Why do we have to wait until the second movie to get that? Can't we just go for that to begin with? Wouldn't that be a better, why do I have to wait a whole movie to get a good plot?
It's funny you say that, but I'll wait until it's my turn.
Yeah. That's the primary thing. It's just like, nah, if I wanted Mario fan service, I could just play the games again. Like, I wanted you guys to do something cool and interesting with the characters while still being faithful, We'll put Eternal Diva out of the equation because, like, it's very debatable whether or not it's an adaptation. But the Layton anime is indeed an adaptation of the Layton's Mystery Journey game. And that anime looks exactly like the games. It sounds exactly like the games. Tomohito Nishihiro did the score, of course.
It goes even beyond the game.
It adapts all of the cases from the game, all of them, and does a good job expanding upon what the game did, fixing some things that were not as good, improving upon things, while at the same time also throwing in its own cool news that basically finally adapting what was supposed to be in the canceled sequel, so we can probably wrap up the story, and does a fantastic job of that. And guess what? There's also fan service for the original trilogy and stuff like that in that, and it does a good job balancing everything. So this can be done. It's just, especially with Mario, where there's not that much to balance out to begin with anywhere, so it's very easily can be done in 90 minutes. And yes, like Theo said, I shudder to wonder what would have happened if Miyamoto wasn't so heavily involved in this movie. If Chris Melandri and the rest of Illumination had been left completely to their own devices, I shudder to think what they probably would have done.
It's like, I get why they partnered with Illumination, and yes, it paid off, but man, I just really personally wish they could have gone with a more integral studio, one that has more integrity.
I had to wonder, Jova, what are the alternatives? DreamWorks, Pixar, WB, and...
Okay. To be fair, DreamWorks do have a thing where they can really knock it out of the park.
The last thing that I want to see is Mario having that awkward smile, thank you.
Pixar, they absolutely have knocked it out of the park. I mean, yeah, they've had a bit of spotty stuff lately, but Pixar definitely could have. In fact, I'm actually surprised they didn't go with Disney, since Bowser had shown up in Wreck-It Ralph beforehand. Ironically, Mario showed up more directly in the goddamn Pixels movie, the Adam Sandler flick.
Yeah.
That movie paid Nintendo more money. Because Rich Moore himself confirmed that the reason Mario was not in the Ralph movies was because Nintendo was asking for too much money. Yeah, I can only imagine. They probably would have turned the Toads into the Minions 2.0.
Yeah.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
That or the Goombas or the Koopas. At least one of the species would have been on the slaughter for this. Absolutely.
They probably would have also gone like the Fish in the Lorax movie and have them be the meme singers.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying this is a bad movie necessarily. If you just want to waste 90 minutes giggling at and spotting references, this will do it for you, I guess. It's not as much a movie as much as it is a 90-minute commercial for Mario games. That's basically what this is. Yes, they got the look right. Yes, they got the music for the most part right. But we kind of need more than that. Like I said, again, Sonic 3 is not a one-to-one adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2, but it gets the core essence of what made that game memorable and loved to begin with.
While also adding in its new stuff.
It puts its own spin on things, but it gets the core aspect right. The fact that Shadow should not look out for revenge. They get that part right, the most important parts right. And this movie, yes, it looks more like the games than Sonic 3 does, but it's much more soulless than Sonic 3 could ever even hopefully be. When you take out the fan service and the pretty animation and the great music, all you're left with is a soulless husk of a movie that's just here to promote video games. That's all it is, really. Let's face it. I didn't dislike the movie, but at the same time, outside of this commentary, and now that it's done, I probably wouldn't really go out of my way to watch this ever again because I have no reason to. There's not really much here to bite on. Not really. That's it. I'm done.
Jova?
I like this movie. I want to make it clear. I like this movie. God, it could have been better, though. Like, again, this might be a bit controversial, but I will say it. Not only are there aspects of the original movie I like better, I kind of tend to come back more to the original movie than this. And that is because of one big reason. This movie plays things painfully safe, which I do feel part of that is in its lifeblood as an Illumination movie. They are either not great or pretty bad, but one thing Illumination manages to do is to tap into just the right algorithm to make their films as marketable or applicable to as wide and broad an audience as they can be.
So what you're saying, Joe, is that this is a Mario movie made by an AI.
More like a committee, I will say.
Committee. I don't want to go as far to say AI because I can at least feel like actual people made this. The talent is notable here and there, and while the plot is by the numbers, it doesn't feel too much like a machine made it, but more like it was somebody reading from the guidebook, essentially. But all that being said, though, they could have done so much better, and I get it. They wanted to play it safe. It's just that, yes, the original Mario movie took risks in a completely wrong direction, but I can't deny it did do interesting things. Again, the landscape was also different. Mario did not have nearly as many rules and regulations in place here and there. And yes, Nintendo have a bit of a history of being a bit draconian with what they would allow Mario characters to be until recently. That being said, sadly, Illumination is a case where I could see an argument for those rules because, like I've mentioned, Illumination have a reputation, and it's not the best. Which is a shame because when they were the underdogs, they seemed like they'd be a new breath of fresh air to the mix. But as we know, that did not quite occur. Now, let me start with the positives, though, about this movie. The quality is on hand for, what was not too big a budget after all. Let's see, this was made on a budget of $100 million, which, okay, to be fair, pretty big for a movie. However, it grossed to $1.363 billion, so they made their money back, needless to say. Like, they've always done a good way of gauging the budget, and this is definitely one of their biggest budgeted things, probably thanks to Nintendo doing it. And they do show it. The animation quality is on point. The composition is great, grand, and sweeping through. I will agree, some design changes are a bit weird, like, that just isn't immediately apparent, but if you actually do check out toys, you can notice that he has a bit of green shading on his arms. That's a bit weird. Mario and Luigi's redesigns are more so in the outfits and the facial structure. I'm fine with them, but it's like, Peach admittedly keeps the one thing I've never really cared for much, the fish lips, and other than that, I guess she's fine. I mean, there's not much I can say about the design choices because for the most part, it does feel like they are taken from the games. That said, Cranky Kong, okay, I'll admit, I actually do like Cranky Kong's design in this movie. I like his dripping outfit. It's cool. So for the most part, the characters and designs are good and on point. As is the music. They couldn't have picked a better composer with Brian Tyler, who gives us a great dedication to the series. But
when he's
that's
allowed
also
to.
where
When he's allowed
that's also
to.
where some of the problems begin. Again, the corporate nature of Illumination rears its ugly head with how they took out a lot of the music and replaced it with licensed songs. And I want to make it clear, I am a fan of pretty much every licensed song in this movie and what would have been in this movie, save for Mr. Blue Sky. I'm not really that familiar with that song. Like, no, I love I Need a Hero. I love Thunderstruck. I love Take On Me. And yes, I do love Jump. Again, I would not have completely minded if they included that in the movie, so long as it doesn't, replace what we got. Like, if you want to throw in some stuff, have it mix in well, which I'll admit, maybe I'm a bit biased. I feel like Sonic 3 at least used Galvanized to an amazing sense, since holy cow, that dance sequence is pretty much now in the records of memes. It's so glorious, but I digress here. But yeah, no, it is clear that Illumination definitely tried to put in their unique qualities, which leads me to my biggest issue. The plot or lack thereof. I feel like it's a combination of Illumination going to their usual bag of tricks with doing one of the most by the numbers and notes plot here. The fish out of water, or the hero who needs to prove himself, or, oh, that guy could totally never get with the girl until he totally does, essentially. It's just that, yes, it's technically a plot that works, but it's not interesting, especially given the fact that the plot comes at the sacrifice of, well, the Mario brothers. Mario and Luigi spend the majority of this movie split apart, essentially. There's hintings at their bond, and yes, it's nice that they eventually come together to fight Bowser, but they spend most of the movie not there. It's like Tio said, it's applicable to the Surf Dracula meme, essentially. We spend about 90% of the movie waiting for the hero to become the hero that we're used to them having, or the promised payoff, in this regard, the Super Mario Brothers. Like, sure, yeah, maybe we'll get more of them in the sequel, but why couldn't we have done more in this? And again, I get it, but I'm gonna say it. It should have been Peach that was kidnapped. Have Mario and Luigi do most of the action here and there, and then maybe if you do want to have Peach kick butt, let her kick butt, or make her a main player in the sequel. Mind you, nowadays we're kind of coming around unless people are forcing this or that, but man, just because a woman gets kidnapped does not automatically mean it's sexist or bad writing. Peach was still shown to be a capable ruler, essentially. Just say that Bowser fought against her kingdom and whatnot. It is literally war. He is a villain, the bad guy, the one whose, example we're not supposed to follow. Of all the things to tread on eggshells with, I don't think they needed to do it with Peach as much as they thought they needed to, because, as Tio mentioned, as a result, Peach kinda takes up a lot of the action, essentially. Heck, there are some points in the movie where you have to wonder, why does she even bother to bring Mario along if she could do it? Yeah, one could say Mario comes up with the idea that gets us the Kong army, but sorry, the Kong army get pretty much taken out of the movie practically after we get them. And Peach just, I guess, defends the kingdom on her own, except, wait, why didn't you just escape with the Toads, wherever they went? Regardless, though, it is really a shame, because otherwise, this looks like it could have been the perfect Mario movie. The problem comes down to the writing. Yes, there are some cases where writing is not everything, but I assure you, 8 times out of 10, writing is going to dictate how well someone likes your movie, unless they're strictly just there for the spectacle. And given that this was a movie for kids, I do get the feeling that's what they were relying on. For the kids, it's a typical fun little romp through Adventureland. For the adults, they can definitely point and remember things from the Mario series. I feel like the ideal case is to have both a movie that you can point at and know what that is, while also being good. Like I mentioned, I don't really care for Peach in this one. I kind of find her dull and drab and by the numbers, essentially. Luigi is great by Charlie Day when he's actually in the movie. And Chris Pratt, while he is better at Mario than we thought he would be, we did not really need to give Chris Pratt yet another paycheck. I'm sure he's already swimming in money from the MCU and the Jurassic World series. Like, come on, you should have given this one to Danny DeVito. The bit with Charles Martinet is nice. I argue he arguably could have done Mario better than Chris Pratt throughout the movie. There's a ton of controversies with how Nintendo may or may not have treated Charles Martinet, but that is neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, regarding a sequel, I am okay with the idea of a sequel. I mean, look, for starters, there obviously is going to be a sequel. Jack Black
Oh no,
was
we already
awesome as
mentioned
Bowser.
Jova. It's releasing next year.
Oh, of course, but what I mean is, like, even if we didn't know, I would still put down money they're gonna make a sequel to a movie that grossed over $1 billion, and given how much people love Jack Black's Bowser, and I can't blame them, I found him to be the best part of the movie. Like, no, there's definitely gonna be a sequel. I'm not gonna fight against the idea, but I will advocate heavily that there be more balance. Yes, it made more movie than the Sonic movies. And yes, it can probably make another billion because of Mario, but I do implore that they not risk burning people out eventually, since who knows, the sequel might not make as much, and we're to a point where even Illumination is apparently starting to have trouble with box offices, which is really shocking. Never thought we'd get to that point here. At the end of the day, it's a good movie, but it feels so safe that whenever I look back at this movie, it's mainly for clips, the action sequences, stuff like the car racing bits or the final fight scene. I don't often come back to watch this movie as a whole because there's sadly just not enough substance for me. I'm sorry to anyone who does enjoy this movie, but the Sonic series, it ain't. Tio.
Alright, as for me, this movie is conflicting. On one hand, I am genuinely glad that it did not turn out the disastrous that I was thinking. Again, if you've seen the speculation video that I was part of, I was basically thinking this was gonna be a gigantic dorkly skit that tries to wink too much towards the camera. And sometimes there are a couple of minor gags like that, like when Peach reveals, the freeze flower, we cut to the two Koopas saying drama, and it's like, my god. But they're not as prevalent as I would have wanted to be, and I appreciate that. If anything, the comedy is actually one of the strongest suits of the movie. This movie does not go in too much into the bad cliches that Illumination has at this point for the comedy alone. None of the species get the minion treatment, which again must have been one of the biggest mandated when Miyamoto must have given to Illumination. I'm actually very glad of that. I can only imagine how annoying the Goomba might have been if they did something like that. I think they might have been the prime creatures they would have done, these two. There's not too much pop culture references. And even there's not too much gross out. Again, most of the things that you would expect from the bad comedy, from stuff like Despicable Me or Secret Life of Pets, or even Sing, of course, it's technically not here. At least for the comedy. There are plenty of other stuff that are more stable of Illumination, like the improvisation musical number, because I know that the Sing duology also has a couple of those sprinkled in throughout them. And I made no secret that I'm not particularly a fan of Peaches as a song. Like, again, Jack Black is capable of so much better. Even improvisation, this is just not his, grade A material, I'm sorry. No, and like Pedro said also, when the score is allowed to be present, it's actually a good time, both with the remixes and the original, material. Hell, again, I argue my favorite sequence of the movie, the Rainbow Road, Fury Road homage, as a complete original soundtrack, and yeah, it's still a good time overall. They managed to, not delve into that. For the most part, the animation, I really like it. It still is rough on the edges. Bowser, first and foremost. My god. If anything, is technically worse than I remember. I forgot how bad, his ammunition is. It might be the case of, I forgot if it was you, Jova, or Fedor who said that, or Dweebs, that they might have rigged, his facial animations to match more Jack Black.
Oh,
But
that was me, yeah.
okay, but it gets that kind of uncanny valley effect that, yeah, it's kind of be similar to DreamWorks actually. And I mean Shark Tale kind of, DreamWorks.
Yep.
The one that actually wants to make you smash your brains with a mullet as a result. Or in this case, a power hammer. Let's keep on brand. But aside from that, and like I said, Mario being a bit too, puffy on his cheeks, most of the other, character design and location seem to be spot on to me. It really just feels in a lot of places like the actual, game in a HD format, but it's not generic Unreal presentation, quote unquote, Nintendo hired this man kind of, screenshot. So I appreciate also that they did not do that. The What If Mario in HD. But that's kind of where the praising stops. The voice acting is all over the place. Some stuff works relatively fine. Jack Black as Bowser is technically fine, but like I said, he should have lowered more of an octave. And I get that he's already on a filter, but I kind of wish, either they got someone else or they had, a different kind of filter that lowered a bit his voice. I don't want a repeat of whatever the fuck happened in Mario Sunshine because I really don't like Bowser's voice in that game. But at least something closer to actually the game performance, Hell, again, with a minor bit of setup, either me, Jova, or Pedro can actually replicate that. I get it will be more of a strain on the vocal cords doing it, but that's what, having the weeks of the working production is for, so you don't actually overstress the people in the voice acting booth.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Charlie Danes instead, for example, is very good. Anya Taylor-Joy's pitch is fine. Like I said, the voice acting to me is not the problem with the character. And yes, Keegan-Michael Key is technically fine, like I said. It could have been better, but this could have been so much worse, I will get it. No, really, it's Chris Pratt, my biggest problem. Chris Pratt is just completely miscast. Part of me wants to hear what the original, more heavy Brooklyn accent, performance was that was rejected. But if the people behind it, probably also Nintendo, thought it was not particularly fitting, I guess there might have been a good reason, as in they were not, good sounding. But part of me wonder if it would have been that much worse than this, because again, it's literally just Chris Pratt. It's the embodiment of a meme of, hire Chris Pratt and Tom Holland for these roles and will be just themselves in it, It's just tiring, and it really embodies the not representing Mario. Again, maybe Charles Martinet wouldn't manage to work, but there were plenty of alternatives like me and Jova, as mentioned, of people who, even Pedro, like Pedro said, Stanley Tucci, that could have, actually fit in.
I'm a big Stanley Tucci fan.
Hell,
So
if I want to make an argument, they can pick an actual Italian actor that has international panorama like Riccardo Scamaccio, or I forgot his name, the guy that is now going to appear in Death Stranding 2, Luca something, I forgot his last name, because they know how to speak English, they still have an accent, you might as well. But no, because also we want to have, again, if you're going to ignore the fact that, you're not hiring already an actual Italian American for the role, you might as well try to go through the other direction instead of getting someone who is not even close to that.
It feels like such a yin-yang to the Sonic movies. Like, first movie aside, like they were whacked out of their mind with that one, but at least ever since the first movie, it felt like the Sonic movies made relatively careful decisions because they knew they had gotten the love of the audiences and didn't want to lose that. This feels like they did kind of whatever because they knew Mario would sell, so let's get those big-name actors to get all the press we can.
And as I mentioned, compared to the Sonic movies, unfortunately, the Italian dub did not do this movie much any favors. I guess I'll probably still take that over the original, I guess, but it's really just a pick your poison situation. It really doesn't change the quality of the movie or my experience with it. Again, that really is just the plot, basically, and again, as Jova said, it's too safe. The corporate mandate. This has, ironically enough, this to me has one of the same problems of the first two Sonic movies, and to an extent also 3, but less in 3, where there's clearly an idea from someone that wants to push, something from out of a story, but executive mandates, either Universal, Nintendo, or both in this case, push down in order to be a more generic safe trait, and as a result damage the movie. Like, let's not have Peach being kidnapped because we want to have a strong, female role for the audience, to have that. Okay, but we still need someone in captivity to demonstrate that Bowser, is a big problem. So what do? We split the Mario Brothers. Jerry, you do know that it's in the title, right? And the people will not care. Yeah.
It's like you say, the father was right there. In fact, that would even do better with Mario needing to prove himself.
Yeah, but also this whole stupid arc about Mario wanting to impress his father. Again, it's the whole thing that I mentioned also in the movie about Mario having this arc with daddy issues, and this whole thing about the movie pounding down on Mario, because this is supposed to be an origin story, so he kind of has to be a wimp for 90% of it until, he gets a W here and there, like with Donkey Kong, and instead at the very end. It can get tiring. I genuinely hope that in the sequel they bother to not make it a repeat, but it's still Illumination. I'm fully expecting that to happen. Again, I already expressed enough what I have to about Peach, but please don't misunderstand my words by saying we need to have Peach be a damsel in distress and everything. I'm pretty sure a compromise could have been made. Hell, like me, Pedro, and Drova said, the games managed to get that since the USA version of the second game,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty confident you could make a balance without having to overcompensate, because otherwise, I personally argue you run into that argument of the gag from Sonic Boom, where Amy makes their proclaiming statement and Knuckles says that, reinforcing ulteriorly that only seems to lampshade the problem more than anything. But again, I know that I'm not the most qualified to talk about this. Again, there's a gem of a decent story in this, with Bowser collecting the Power Star, and everything, and the Kong roles being, more expanded, probably also for spin-off purposes. Believe it or not, I argue maybe with 15 to 20 extra minutes, maybe some of these problems could have been fixed by expanding a bit of the scenes, because I argue one of the biggest problems of the movie is that it goes way too fast on a lot of moments, particularly also during the climax and the ending, as Shiroi noted. The movie just immediately stops. The epilogue is like 1 or 2 minute stops long, which is not even too much of a where are we now. Sure, we get a post-credit scene about, Bowser, still being shrunk and everything, which, if I had to raise speculation about the sequel, yeah, it's probably going to be something that goes along the lines of Bowser Jr. arrives to free his father, and shenanigans happen.
Or the Koopalings altogether.
Or both, all 8 of them. So yeah, it is what it is. I'll still take this over the 1993 movie. 1993 movie is still something that I really do not like. Made a lot of bad decisions that I still do not like about casting, about appearance, and about, obviously, how not to make a movie for the safety of, cast and crew. Again, I get it, the morbid fascination to it, but the behind-the-scenes stuff, it makes it a thing that, guys, maybe at best, we should still watch the movie without having to, support monetarily, companies and people that were behind this. Just saying. But again, this doesn't make it, too much better, if you ask me. I will say this, however, and I know this is the most controversial statement out of all of us in here, because it has been going against what it has been said so far. I'll still probably take this over the first two Sonic movies. Not on 3, but the first two Sonic movies, as I said in our commentaries, have a lot of jokes that I really do not like, and suffer a couple of the same problems, like over-relying on casting people who are not really fitting for their roles, at least in my opinion, and plots that are, well, okay, as mentioned by Perry at the beginning, the plot of the Sonic movies goes in the other direction of taking too many risks, but it also goes in according to what you said in your final thoughts, Pedro. The whole thing about having to wait until the movies gets good. That's kind of what happened to me. I had to wait until Sonic 3 to finally find a Sonic movie that I genuinely did liked. So honestly.
Sure.
This, I think, is a better base to start at the very least, so I can kind of see where Deji is coming from at the very least. But no, I will still take Sonic 3 over this any day. But again, that's just a statement to how much of a mess this is. We'll have to see what happens in the future if we survive long enough for that. Shiroi.
I'm going to be honest, I probably have the least to say about this. Just because I'm not as attached to this franchise. I do play some of the games, but and I do understand the references, but also this movie isn't going to annoy me as much in that regard. So yeah, this was pretty middle of the road. Like I said, that hasn't changed. Like I said that at the halfway point, hadn't changed by the end. It had some moments, especially the finale, but yeah, the movie didn't really deserve it, considering everything else. The movie looks great. The music arrangements that are there from the games are great. I don't dislike any of the licensed songs that were used as songs. I just dislike that they were there at all. The actors did fine. They screwed Luigi over big time.
Yeah.
I've already said my piece on Peach. We already had plenty to say about that, so I won't hop on that again. They were just too safe, I think, and I don't think they needed to be. Like, this is not a franchise. Like, Sonic, I understand, like, the habit of playing it safe. I mean, thankfully, they have moved away from doing that in recent years, which is great. But Mario is a franchise that it doesn't need to do that. It's not at risk of getting the backlash from trying and fumbling. Like, there wasn't really an excuse for that for them. It was a fine movie. Definitely background noise, though. I still hold that opinion. Don't really know what else to say. I just hope they're less cowardly with the sequel. And that's it. I'm glad I got to see this finally, but yeah, it was whatever.
All right, then.
Yeah, no. Like, I agree. Like, ideally, things will turn out for the better. You pretty much did raise my biggest frustration, though. Of all the series to play safe with, Mario was the one you did not
like,
need
you
to.
don't need to. You are as safe as you possibly can be.
I know it doesn't probably
try.
I know it still probably doesn't fit, but would any of you say that it fits the Mario mandate meme?
I haven't seen much of that, but I don't know.
Okay, then again, no, because Bowser talks in this, so there you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I will say. Like, the animations and the character looks I was fine with, but it's when Bowser starts getting all googly-eyed that it starts to get a little... And not just because he's being a simp. Like, the animation is genuinely unsettling. Like, don't look at me like that. That's it. That's it now.
All right, I guess that's it. We'll have to wait until the sequel finally arrives. In the meantime, happy birthday, Shiroi, and we'll see what happens next.
Cool.
See you next time.
See ya.